In a world filled with secrets, sometimes you have to step into the dark to find the light. Welcome to the Dark Lights podcast, where we unravel eerie mysteries, one story at a time.
Have you ever heard a story that just sounds too crazy to be true? Like something out of a movie?
I know what you mean. Those stories that make you go, wait, really?
Well, I think I've got one for you. Are you ready for this?
Hit me with it.
Okay, so picture this. An 85-year-old man, a rainy city street, and a group of, well, let's just say troublemakers.
Okay, I'm intrigued. This doesn't sound like your average Tuesday night.
Not at all. And the man at the center of it all, his name is Frank Delgado. Frank's a former boxer.
Boxer, huh? So maybe he's still got some fight left in him.
Maybe. But Frank's also known for his really strong faith. He's always believed he has a guardian angel watching over him.
Okay, I'm seeing where this might be going. But honestly, after what happened that night, you can't help but wonder.
Right. Okay, so let's set the scene. It's a cold October night. Frank's on the bus, heading home after visiting a friend.
Just a normal evening so far?
Exactly. But Frank, he nods off. You know how it is, long day, the rhythm of the bus, and he ends up missing a stop.
Uh-oh. That's never a good feeling.
No, not at all. Especially because he ends up getting off the bus in a pretty rough part of town. Not the best place for anyone to be alone at night, let alone an 85-year-old.
Definitely not ideal. Okay, so he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. What happens next?
So Frank's walking down this dark street, and he's approached by a group of teenagers. Think tough-looking, posturing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I get the picture.
And they start, giving him a hard time, demanding his wallet, anything of value, the whole intimidation routine.
Classic. So how does Frank react? Does that boxer instinct kick in?
Actually, no. Frank, being a man of deep faith, he decides to stand his ground but not fight back. He just prays silently, accepting whatever might happen.
Wow, that takes a lot of courage. Or maybe, like you said, a lot of faith.
Probably a bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where things take a turn for the unexplainable. One of the teenagers, full of bravado and probably a bit of something else, lunges at Frank, fist raised.
Boy, man.
And that's the last thing Frank remembers.
He gets knocked out?
He wakes up 2 days later in a hospital bed.
Okay, so I'm guessing he got roughed up pretty bad.
That's what everyone assumed. But get this. The nurse tells him he has absolutely no injuries. No cuts, no bruises, nothing.
Wait, hold on. He gets attacked, ends up in the hospital, but has no injuries.
That's right, not a scratch. Even the doctors were baffled. And then the police show up.
Uh-oh, this is where it gets serious.
It does, because it turns out there was a fight that night, a violent one. Several of those teenagers ended up in the hospital themselves, some in pretty bad shape.
Hold on, are you saying Frank fought them off? An 85-year-old man?
That's what the witnesses claimed. They placed Frank right in the middle of it all. But no one can explain how at W he could have done it. It just doesn't make sense.
You're telling me that's like superhero level stuff.
I know, right? And the wildest part, Frank is just as confused as everyone else.
He doesn't remember anything.
Nothing about the fight. All he remembers is praying, then waking up in that hospital bed. And that's where his belief in his guardian angel comes in. He's absolutely convinced his guardian angel intervened, protected him, and somehow took care of those attackers.
So we're talking divine intervention. That's a tough one to swallow, even for someone like me who's seen a lot of strange things.
I hear you. The police obviously were skeptical. They tried to come up with rational explanations. Maybe Frank's boxing instincts kicked in, some kind of adrenaline surge.
Right, but those explanations only go so far.
Exactly. An 85-year-old man taking down a group of teenagers and walking away without a mark. It just doesn't add up.
You've got to admit, it's a pretty compelling story, whether you believe in the supernatural or not.
It definitely makes you think, right? And that's just the beginning. We haven't even touched on the reactions, the aftermath, the impact this whole thing had on Frank's life.
Frank's story, it kind of became a Rorschach test. People saw in it what they wanted to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, how could you not react strongly to a story like that?
Exactly. You had some people, especially the skeptics, who just dismissed it outright. They figured, oh, he's just an old man. His memory's probably fuzzy.
Right. They chalked it up to an overactive imagination, maybe some embellished memories from his boxing days.
Exactly. Others tried to come up with more down-to-earth explanations, like maybe the teenagers tripped and fell, or they weren't really trying that hard to hurt him.
Trying to rationalize it somehow, I get that. But then you had the folks who believed Frank wholeheartedly.
His friends, family, people from his church, the ones who knew him as a truly devout man. They saw this as a bona fide miracle, proof that a higher power was at work.
And for them, it probably reinforced their own beliefs, their faith.
Absolutely. Their worldview already had room for divine intervention, so Frank's story fit right in.
And through it all, Frank remained grounded. He didn't go around bragging or anything. He just seemed grateful.
That's interesting. You'd think someone who just experienced something that miraculous would be shouting it from the rooftops.
Yeah, you'd think so. But he was actually quite humble about it. It's like this whole ordeal just deepened his faith, his sense of awe for the mysteries of life.
It's a good reminder that faith isn't just about what you believe, it's about how you live it.
It wasn't about proving anything to anyone else. It was a deeply personal experience.
It makes me think of something called post-traumatic growth. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes going through something really difficult, even indirectly, can have a positive impact on someone's life.
I've heard of that, like finding strength and resilience you didn't know you had.
Exactly. And finding a new sense of meaning and purpose.
That's a powerful idea. So maybe Frank's experience, regardless of the explanation, helped him grow in ways he wouldn't have otherwise.
It's certainly possible. But what's undeniable is that whether you believe in guardian angels or not, the sheer improbability of what happened is fascinating.
It really is. An 85-year-old man, a group of attackers, no injuries. It just doesn't fit neatly into our understanding of how things work.
It challenges our need for a logical explanation. Sometimes things happen that we can't easily categorize or explain away.
And maybe that's okay. Maybe the not knowing is part of what makes life so intriguing.
Absolutely. It keeps us curious, keeps us searching for answers, keeps us open to the possibility that there's more to the universe than we can currently grasp.
So let's shift gears a bit. What about the bigger picture here? What does Frank's story tell us about belief, resilience, and the mysteries that still surround us?
That's a great question.
Mm.
I think it speaks to the power of the human spirit, our ability to overcome adversity, and the enduring fascination we have with the unknown.
Before we wrap up, let's turn to our listeners. What do you think happened that night? Was it a guardian angel, sheer luck, or something else entirely? It's a wild story, right? But what does it all mean for us regular folks? I mean, most of us aren't boxers, A&D, we don't have guardian angels, at least as far as we know. But is there something in Frank's story that we can all connect with?
Well, what about the power of belief? You know, whether it's faith in something bigger than ourselves, trust in our own abilities, or just that little spark of hope that keeps us going when things get tough.
I see what you mean. That inner strength can make all the difference.
Exactly. And think about the placebo effect. Even if you're a total skeptic, you can't deny that just believing in something can have a real impact.
That's true. I've heard about studies where people experience actual physical changes just because they think they're receiving a certain treatment.
It's pretty amazing. It shows just how powerful our minds can be and how much we still don't understand about the mind-body connection.
It's like our thoughts and beliefs can actually shape our reality.
In a way, yeah. And speaking of shaping reality, Frank's story brings up another interesting point, our need to make sense of the world.
That's right. We humans, we love finding patterns and explanations for everything.
We crave order and logic.
Yeah.
But as Frank's case shows, sometimes those explanations just aren't there.
Yeah. Sometimes we're left with more questions than answers.
It can be frustrating, for sure, but I think there's also something liberating about it.
Liberating? How so?
It forces us to acknowledge the limits of our knowledge, to accept that there are things we just might not understand.
Maybe even things we'll never understand.
Right, and that's okay. It's humbling, in a way. It reminds us that the universe is a vast and mysterious place.
I think that's a great takeaway. Instead of getting hung up on finding the perfect explanation, maybe it's more about staying curious and open to the unknown.
Exactly. It's about embracing the wonder and mystery that still exists in the world.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Frank's story, I want to leave you with this thought. What if those moments that defy explanation, those moments that make us question everything we thought we knew if those are actually invitations?
Invitations to what?
Invitations to look deeper, to question our assumptions, to be open to new possibilities.
I like that. It's like the universe is nudging us to expand our thinking.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, it's in those moments of uncertainty and awe that we discover something truly profound about ourselves and the world around us.
Well said. And that's a perfect note to end on, don't you think?
I think so. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep embracing the wonder.
Is this something that you think could happen to you? We are looking forward to hearing from you in the comments. Let us know what you think happened here. All of our content should be considered for casual entertainment purposes only and not used for any other purpose. Thank you for listening. Please like, follow, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out. We will see you next time on the Dark Lights podcast.